Normal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger roll with Atlantis.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight outside SC off. Again, SC off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Greetings everybody, welcome back to Starbase. It's like you've never been away. We are watching a Booster 7 being lifted onto the orbital launch mount, this time by the crane. Because as you saw last night, the chopsticks had a bit of a problem. A bit of a hydraulic leak, so they're using the backup of the crane and that's why it's there. But we're going to cover this. It's going to be very fun to watch this being lifted over onto the OML because we'll get to see the engines, which we now know do not include the center engines. But by all means, ask your questions in chat with @NASASpaceflight. We'll see you up on the panel and we'll try and get to all of them best we can. But I want to introduce Adrian because Adrian's joining us. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, everyone. It's I love to always see like this booster flying just in the air. It's such a cool sight.
And you might notice both myself and Adrian's voice is a little bit grumpy because we've been to the football today. So that's where you may notice a slight difference in the voices, but never mind. I don't think you're really bothered about that. You're more bothered about seeing these engines, and so am I. So we're looking now, right now, it's been lifted off its transport stand, which was included in the rollout yesterday, and we're actually now seeing it being lifted on the orbital launch platform. The fun thing here is Elon used the word hustle, and he wasn't joking, because when he tweeted the word hustle, literally hours later, Boost 7 decided it was going to go down Highway 4 and return to the launch site. And we now know he wants to test the outer 20 engines. And we're looking forward to a static fire test. I think it may come before Ship 24 now. We thought the next thing that happened at the Starbase would be Ship 24 static fire test, but now it looks like it's going to be Booster 7, which will fire up first. And Elon is there. We know Elon's at Starbase because he was tweeting out little video clips of him being there with the booster in the Mega Bay before it rolled, and at the launch site. So we can look forward to some events coming up, some big events coming up, because the three things I'm watching, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, but we're looking at Boost 7, probably doing a static fire test, then rolling back to the production site. In between that, maybe at the same time, but maybe after Boost 7 rolls back, Boost 8 will roll out for its proof testing, but also then Ship 24 is going to do its static fire test. So we could see three big events this month. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely would agree with that. I think the order is also the one I would have probably chosen. I think it's very, like, this is a cool surprise to some of us here, because I didn't expect this to be that fast here on the orbital launch mod, at least. Some might, but I didn't. So this is cool to see, and I really like this because it means more action, and more action is always interesting and good. And also, just as a side note, it went, like, just to underline what you just said, from the moment Elon tweeted that they are hustling to get this back on the pad, to this being lifted, it took 22 hours. So if they complete this lift in the next 2 hours, it took less than 24 hours from hustle to back on pad.
I think that's a good sign, actually, because I think Elon's big methodology about all this is rapid reuse. It's not just reusability anymore, which we've seen them being successful with so much with Falcon 9, and including Falcon Heavy. Hopefully we'll get to see a Falcon Heavy again this year. But it's something where he wants it to be rapidly reusable and fully reusable. These are the two different things here with Starbase and Starship and all the bells and whistles that go with it, both in South Texas and in Florida. But I think it's very interesting to see that anything they learn from speeding up the process of processing will help them in that goal. It's an important thing, an important distinction to watch, that even though we're not yet seeing that orbital launch attempt, they are learning so much. If they had launched when they first wanted to, which was even last year, I believe, they may not have learnt all the lessons they've learnt in the past 12 months. While we are seeing a lull in launches compared to the hops of old, I think they've learned so much that it will put them in a good stead going forward, because they do want to reach a cadence of launching Starlink V2s to the point that they get confidence in the system, and that will help them in the goal towards the big contract they've got with NASA, which is HLS, the Human Landing System. You want Starship to be in a good place before you start launching Artemis missions, I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And also this looks cool right now. We can see the booster translating like behind the crane now. and it's basically turning it slowly to the pad, and after this it will go up and then onto the orbital launch mount. So this is just cool to see how this crane holds this booster, and it also you always forget that these things are empty. You are used to seeing rocket on the pad, fully fueled, getting ready to fire. But yeah, this is an empty booster. That's like an empty can, you could say.
This is the shot I'm looking forward to. When it raises higher, we'll get to see the engines, and we'll get to hopefully see it from this angle. The center engine's missing, and we might. It's just gonna be a unique view because I think it's the only time we'll ever see this, where a super heavy booster has been lifted with engines but not its full set. So it's gonna be fascinating to watch. Well, quick thank you to John Reese, by the way, who became a Pad Rep member. Again, supporting us through memberships or whatever, even just liking the stream. Seriously, I can appreciate people haven't got money to throw around. So if you want to support us, just like the stream, because that helps us in the long run. It all helps. All little bits help. It's amazing how much of an impact that can have, actually. So by all means, that's a way to help. Also, we've got a question from Moldy Space Industries, one of our regulars. I fell asleep to a waterfall of hydraulic fluid. So you can imagine my surprise. They're already ready to lift. Reduce, reuse, repair. That's a hashtag I think we'll have to get used to. They put it on a t-shirt, don't tell Mark. But the funny thing is, that's where the cranes come in handy. People kept on asking us, why is the crane still there? Because it's a big crane. I don't need it for test tanks. You could probably get away with a smaller crane, but that's why it's there. It's the backup to the chopsticks. So if they have a problem with the chopsticks like they did last night, they have the big LR11000 crane there to take up the slack. So there we go. We're seeing the crane being employed as its backup role to lift a super heavy booster onto the orbital launch mount. Bradley Haber, how many Earl Greys are you in? No, again, I've not got a cold. I'm fine. I just enjoyed some sports ball earlier, so that's why my voice has gone a little bit. Because I'm, despite my middle age, I've still got the mind of a 20-year-old, and I do like getting involved. Liam Hatton, do you think you'll see booster static fire next week? That's a good question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? If you'd asked me that last week, even if we knew that Boost 7 was returning, I might have said, well, it might take a little bit longer. But now we know that Elon's there. We know Elon's a driver, and I think that's where they get a lot of success. They get a huge amount of success at SpaceX from having someone like Elon Musk at the top, who is also the main chief engineer. So when you've got that boss and chief engineer combined and driving forward with the goals that he's got, that results in things happening faster. I honestly believe that. It sounds like a fanboy thing to say, but it's honestly, we've seen the evidence of it. They've achieved so much in a short order. I would probably answer that with a yes. I think they'll put it onto the orbital launch mount, put my teeth back in, and then they'll probably take until the road closure windows next week, and they've got one on Monday. I think Monday might be too soon. What do you think, Adrian? When do you think is as soon as they could static fire this?
Yeah, I'm thinking about this right now, so thanks for giving me time with your answer, so I could think about this more. Yeah, the question is also like, he explicitly mentioned engine testing. He tested out he mentioned testing out the outer ring. So I would expect them, at least that's my feeling, that they might redo the last test that sparked problems, which was of course a spin prime. And then a pre-burner and a static fire. That would be my order in my mind. So, with them probably taking like 1 day for the spin prime, I think if there's a static fire, it will be more close to first day. Like, I think there's a narrow window where they could get to that point. We saw them performing a pre-burner and a static fire in the same window before, so that could always be the case here. But I think it is a narrow window for the next week. And it would be more closer to the end of the week. That's my prediction.
Right, and that follows up with the Outdoorsman asks when full stack? Because that does tie into another question from David Suarez, who asks, considering return of Boost 7 to the orbital launch mount, are we having an orbital flight soon? So let's combine those two things. Personally, and Adrian, back me up if I'm wrong here, or back me up if I'm right, I should say. we do think now they're going to do the static fire test, then roll the vehicle back to production site to have the rest of its engines installed, and probably repeat with a 33 engine static fire test before we even start seeing, that the confirmation of 7 and 24 at the orbital flight. Joe, I think they still are. I think we will see Booster 8 out there, but that's not something to say that Booster 7's been retired. I think that's just because they're just getting into the routine of production cadence and getting the 2 vehicles ready. But I personally think the path is static fire with the 20, right, say next week, then roll back, install the center engines, roll back to the launch site, and then probably do a full stack because you need the weight of the Starship on top after ship 24 static fires, and do a 33 engine static fire test. Then we can start looking at the orbital flight pending the launch license. Do you think that's correct, Adrian, or correct me if I made a mistake there?
No, I absolutely agree with you. It's a very milestone-based view, and I think that's the view you should have. Like, we always talk about, hey, when do you expect this to happen? But I think, like, the most responsible way to look at all of this is always in a milestone-based system. And the next milestone, of course, now is this outer ring testing. After that, we will probably roll back, engine testing again. So there's a lot of milestones still on the road before we will see a full stack. And I think as soon as you basically know, and Elon and SpaceX will for sure confirm that in some way or form, I expect them to in some way acknowledge a successful test campaign of both individual parts. Like, we saw SpaceX doing like promotional tweets for Starship in the past, so maybe expect at some point a tweet being like, hey, first orbital test booster is done with its own campaign, or Elon be like confirming that. And once we really know that for both vehicles, for the Starship 24 and for Booster 7, then you can really think about, okay, when we will see them both together at the pad. And that's still a ways off, and there's still a lot of tests before that.
Andy Hill, PadRat member, thank you for joining the team. You are literally part of the team now, one of our members. Very much appreciate your support. Typewriter and Tubaz one. That's a great name. Why don't they ever test on weekends, or seem to test on weekends? I think the rules are with Cameron County that they only have road closures for testing, which is different than what they're doing right now, because I think the road is still open. With road closures for testing, like static fires and proof testing and what have you, on a certain number of weekends, I think they've only got to allocate for that many, because obviously it's a road to a beach, and the locals want to go to the beach on a weekend usually. So I think, correct me again, Adrian, bumping at any point I make a mistake here, because I do believe that is the Cameron County rules, where they have done a deal with SpaceX saying, look, you can have X amount of weekends in a year, and that's why SpaceX tend to reserve them back for when they really need them.
Yes, that's exactly correct. They have possibilities to schedule road closures on the weekend. They tend to not to. And also, I could imagine it's also tied to the fact that if you close this public beach, it's lifting. But yeah, TLDR, yes, that's correct, but it's lifting. So I will end my answer here in a shorter way to, wow, look at these engines.
That's nice, amazing. Rough Rider Show, one of our regulars and great supporters, not only has done a super chat, but just mentioned that he just got a metal print. Was the part that broke last night on Chopsticks, a new and installed actuator. Thanks again, guys. First of all, metal prints. I trust me, I love our store. I wouldn't put my name to it or put the site's name to it if we didn't. The metal prints, when I first got my metal print from the store, I was like, wow, it's the first one I ever got, and I was so impressed with it. And trust me, I would not say that if I thought they were not the best quality. They're amazing. And from what I've seen from other metal prints on stores from other people, they're actually very good, very well priced, I must admit. And that's why I was concerned about the quality. But when I got one myself before I even started promoting them, I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I think the command is in this. It is as you link to the store, if you do fancy a massive, and they are massive, metal print on your wall from one of our photographers, because they are wonderful. Tanil Weather Space Station, thank you very much for your support too. A question for Adrian here. Hello.
Sorry, but you can now very much see how it's just the outer ring here. That's the shot we're waiting for. So I had to interrupt here, because you can see. you can look through the engines and you can only see it's like this outer ring of Raptors that is placed there. It's quite amazing to see here. That's why I was stunned there in a moment. That,
Not a problem. Let's just get over this white pipe. And I'll do a screenshot for the good folk on Twitter. Look at this. It's moving as well. This won't be a long stream.
Yeah, like you can look how it's like you can kind of grasp how it's empty there. Like there's nothing really below this booster because besides these outer engines.
Right, I'm going to give you a question. I'm going to do a tweet, so I can't do multitasking, so I'll have to do one or the other. Carson Reed asks, since there are only 20 engines on Booster 7, do you think the anomaly happened with the outer 20 only?
That's like a good question. Why they now decided to test the outer ones specifically. I think it's a good chance that there's something related to them that they want to test. We saw them also performing, for example, a lot of single spin prime tests in McGregor Live. Shoutouts to McGregor Live, our other stream. So it seems like they're still looking at that, and it might be related to tests of specific engines in a specific configuration. But I would imagine there's a reason why they specifically now test this outer ring. And so, yes, I think it's somehow related. Or the other approach is that they just want to test them in stages, and the outer ring is just ready for right now to test, and they don't want to test all engines at the same time for now. So that's why they maybe went with this approach. That's the kind of way how I would unpack this for now. I hope I gained enough time here for you to do the tweet.
Did. just
perfect.
Just hit send. Literally just hit send as you were finishing now, thinking, well done, Adrian. But I was changing the screenshot because the more it progresses, the more you get to see it. So I was kind of like left to the last second. There's also no heat shielding there, is there, as well? We can see the guts of each of the Raptor 2s, which is... where else do you see this stuff? I mean, to be fair, just 1 second. Sorry, I didn't want to cough on the mic. It was just one situation where if this was like Blue Origin, you would not... I mean, we're seeing things from Blue Origin now, with thanks to Tori Bruno, where we're seeing the BE4s, but I think this amount of hardware on shirt and we're literally just watching it live is fascinating to me. I really am grateful to everybody who's involved with this, from Mary through to Michael to Daz to all the team, even the SBL operators. Big shout out to the SBL operators who are on this all the time, all day, when this thing's not happening as well. You know, this is an event. We're enjoying this because it's an event, we're covering it, but the SBL squad we've got who cover the things right through to like 4 o'clock in the morning, just a brilliant team, and I just want a quick shout out during this key point of this stream for those guys.
Yes. Yeah, look at this is just amazing. How they just people with taglines next to this booster. I always love this. It's quite like it's interesting how little people there are. Like I remember like previous lifts there were more. I feel like this seems like very calm and very quick in a way they are lifting this right now. Almost methodical.
The lining up of this can't be easy, especially without the chopsticks. I would have assumed it's harder with the crane. What do you think? Do you think that
jumping over that border there? I would probably break my leg doing that. Sorry.
I mean, I did humans for scale on the tweet, and it was just like, it really is that. Oh, he's got a big hook, and he's gone a bit whoopsie. Look at that, he's got a big fishing hook.
Yeah, this is kind of funny what kind of tools they're using for this.
And they are literally going to drag it from the engine bells into place.
I mean...
What? I mean, this is amazing. I mean, this is like proper rocket hardware guys just basically saying, right, big, massive, super heavy booster. Don't worry, we'll get it in place. Where's my big hook? There it is. Oh, my word.
Write down all of these numbers.
Oh, yes, by all means, yeah, because these are the ones that might replace them, obviously. We've seen from Mary and Nick's videos where they've been coming in and out with the Raptors. and replacing some and sending some back to McGregor. So we got 24, 21, 42, 28, 70. Remember, these are Raptor 2, so the numbers are not old Raptors. They are literally like the start from 0 again with the serial number 2. So that's, I see a 46 there.
They're all quite early compared to some of the very high numbers we have seen at this point. We have like 116, I think?
Yeah, 116. Definitely saw 116. Again, big shout out to Mary there. The length she goes to get to do raptor hunting is amazing.
They're going down fast as well here.
They are not messing about here.
Are they in time for lunch break? Like it seems like they really want to get to lunch break.
They've had the memo from Elon saying, "Get on with it."
Boss said we have like 20 minutes, so let's go.
A question about this lift relating to the chopsticks from Corb. It says, could SpaceX use electric motors for the chopsticks? I think Elon would love everything electric, but can that be the chopsticks? Is there enough power? In fact, there might be a question for chat, because I don't know. I don't know if they've got electrical motors that could carry something like that.
I am really not an expert on things like that, so I admit my gap of knowledge here.
Wow, Robert Hobson again with a big super chat. Again, Robert, I always sound disingenuous because of my Yorkshire accent. Everything I say sounds disingenuous. It's just the way my accent is. But honestly, I can't thank you enough, because you are a regular supporter of this channel, and it means everything. And it means everything to the point that we could not do it without the support. And it usually works as a combination. But when someone does large support like you do, that covers, streams which maybe not getting many support, where we, it makes it viable. It allows us to do this. It can't be. I mean, Jack does a great job at explaining, because he understands the nitty gritty of it all with the video editing side of things. But it's very much appreciated. I'm going to put your name in there because you've got a question as well. Any idea what those white corkscrew columns in the engine section are for, Adrian?
I'm thinking about what exactly corkscrew columns in the engine check section. I'm not sure what exactly we are talking about here.
Maybe in the... I wish I had my DAS art with me right now. But you can see where the heat shield's not there anymore. You can see the cutouts where you can see the power head of the Raptors. And you look to the top, you see like a square, an orange kind of square. Maybe that. Maybe
some sort, like, could that be connection to the pad?
Robert, if you want to just add into chat at NASASpaceflight and just add some clarifications about what part, maybe directions towards what we're looking at, and we'll evaluate what that could be. Typewriters again. Would the lack of inner engines change the dynamics under the booster for the static fire test? It depends on if they were going to do a 33 engine static fire test and they started within a subset, then you've got the same amount of thrust as you would even if you've got the engines there or not. But would the nozzles of all 33 interact even if they didn't fire up all 33? That's the question.
I would say the answer for sure is yes, it changes things. Like, we can for sure say it changes things because it's a whaleless Raptors, and also like it's a different way how this but yeah, it's a good question if there is an influence by the fact that there's just a missing mass in the middle. I'm not sure it's that much of an influence. It would maybe be interesting to see how these engines would react to the vibrations of the other ones, but I would at this point just hope and think that SpaceX probably considered that when moving on with this test, and they think it would not significantly alter the data they would gather from this, because that's what they need here. They need comparable data and comparable tests, so they know that this is an environment where they basically can test for something like an orbital test. Like, these tests always are leading up to that final goal of getting the stack into orbit.
And Adrian, if you look into Control Center, you'll see where Michael has highlighted the area that Robert Hobson was asking about, so that might help. While we're doing that, it's a rhetorical question from Overlord Raven, who follows up Rough Riders show with a question saying he'd also like to know about what broke on the chopsticks. I think it's down to Elon to say, because without Elon saying, we're not going to find out. we could speculate what it could be, but it'd be nice if Elon tweeted, because then when Elon tweets, that's something you can take to the bank with you. So we'll find out, but I'm sure they'll fix it, and it won't be too long till it's back in action. It's also a good experience. Remember, that could have happened while they were lifting the booster. That'd be more serious. It happened when they were just moving the chopsticks, so that's a lot easier than dropping something like a booster, which you do not want to happen. Luckily, it seemed to lock into place quite well, so it was not a critical issue with the chopsticks. It was just something obviously to let go, and I'm sure they'll have it fixed in no time. Keith Carson, Raptor 42, the answer to the life universe and everything. Yes, thank you for the reference to movies. Adrian, have you seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No.
Oh dear. I didn't want to.
Quick answer. No.
Yeah, I kind of knew that was coming. Telling whether the space station has actually gone to flight engineer. That is major support. Thank you so much for that. That is absolutely wonderful. You get the full set of benefits from that. And again, thanks to all our supporters, including Ryan S, who's become a Capcom member, and you have access to our NASA Discord, which I'll quickly put into chat. And you don't want to hear me talking about memberships when we got boosters being loaded on to mounts, but there you go. John Malkin asks, could they have left the covers to prevent build-up of the gases in early testing? Oh. The pause you hear is us thinking. Yeah. Could they have left off the covers to prevent the build-up of gas? Oh, yeah, you see, the covers that they've ripped off, which were quite crumpled, we've seen in Murray's video, that it was... do you think that contributed to the build-up of gases during the spin prime test that resulted in the explosion?
I think no. That's just because there's a lot of still open area below that booster, so I think that since these engine covers are not really the primary way how you vent out gases, in normal cases, I wouldn't think that would be the case. My guess is more that they still have this open because they might anticipate that this needs more work done, so they are not covering it yet again, so they can access it more easy. But I wouldn't think it's about that. That's just my personal, I cannot back this up by any knowledge about these kind of processes, but I would just that's just how I feel in this case.
Space World Update asks, can you see anything on the OML which indicates the installation of sparklers, the Aerofes? I don't think we have, but again, we won't be able to see inside the ring of the OML, so that's something that we can't really keep an eye on. But a quick point about those Aerofes, it plays into the rapid reusability part again, because I know about the Aerofes on Delta 4 and the Aerofes used for the Space Shuttle main engines during the shuttle program. STS-93 is a good example where they had an abort at T-minus 7 seconds and had fired up the Aerofes by that point before the abort was called. And it took them multiple days before they replaced the Aerofes to then go for the next attempt for Columbia's STS-93 launch, which was a quite eventful launch in itself. So that's not going to play into rapid reusability unless SpaceX, and let's face it, they probably will, find a way around the Aerofes firing, aborting, and then having to replace them or in a speedy manner, because if you're using Aerofes as standard and you can't replace them in very short order, like in the space of an hour or so, you're going to lose out on flow towards your next attempt. And we know that Elon has ambitions to launch Starship more than once a day, and I assume from the same mount. So that's why Aerofes are not a great idea as they stand, as we know them from the space industry. But we do know they need to find a solution to what happened with Boost 7's prime test, spin prime test, where they had an explosion. So there's got to be a middle ground. I can guarantee you SpaceX has some bright minds and they'll be thinking of the best solution for it. But the standard, let's just install Aerofes on it, is not going to... It'd be a very interim solution if so, because that's not, as they stand, from the experience we've got with current and previous rockets, something that allows you to abort and then recycle pretty fast once you fire them up. They're literally like sparklers. You have to literally replace them all. So that's the problem with roughies. Jackie Valkyrie has become a pad rat. Thank you. Thank you very much for becoming a member. Very much appreciated. A son of a lion asks, will they install the rest of the engines on the OML or now with the new platform? Well, the new platform is a bit of an enigma. We're not totally sure. It's a kind of new platform where they can just roll out multiple Raptors. I mean, it will be multiple Raptors and install them at the pad. We know they can install Raptors at the launch site, but we're usually talking about swap outs, the occasional Raptor. I think for a large installation of Raptors, such as all the center engines in this case, I'm 95% sure they're going to roll back to production site to do that. I think that platform is more about access rather than sort of like being a dedicated Raptor installer. So, well, Adrian, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if it would be like 2 or 3 engines missing, they might just do that on the pad. But this is a large amount of engines that are still missing. So I would not be surprised to see them roll back and install the rest. And also install the engine covers, for example. The booster needs more work.
Yeah.
Not only these Raptor engines. So I would at this point expect them doing that on rollback and not doing that with the platform. I think I agree with you there that is more like a maintenance platform, which makes maintenance and maybe a switch of 1 or 2 engines more easy. But I don't think it's the plan to just install half of the engines at the pad.
Andy Law, there's an name I recognise. He works with Everyday Astronaut, who I think everyone agrees is probably Everyday Astronaut Tim Dodd. He's probably the best person who's on the internet right now. If you want to talk about rockets and stuff and learn about rockets, definitely there's no one close to him. He asks, what is the wide aero cover in the centre of the screen to the right of the chime? I don't remember seeing it before. Adrian?
I'm thinking about what exactly is below that cover because I don't want to answer it wrong.
Yeah, we're under pressure now because when someone from Everyday Astronaut asks us a question about that, we're like, oh god, don't get it wrong.
Hey, and Alex to the rescue here. It's the hydraulic power unit.
There we
Here we go. So
I was
thanks
thinking
for that,
that's
Alex.
annoying because I was thinking that. I thought if I blurt out,
I knew it
Andy,
wasn't
stop
the,
putting
like,
pressure on
normal
us.
I was thinking about it as well, and I knew it was not like COPVs because that's below the chimes. So I was really like struggling here, and then thought like, was it battery? Was it HPU? But yeah, it's the HPU.
MM54.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. MM54. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the first full stack. It is indeed. Nick did a tweet earlier. I'm going to put it into chat. 1 second. There we go.
Wow.
I know it's crazy because it doesn't seem like 1 year, but then again, sometimes everything feels like it's taken forever. It's funny how Starbase works in your old timeline. There's a tweet from Nick of what was a crane lift. It was the old, was it Mechazilla?
Yes, that should have
Yeah,
been. Yeah.
Back in the days, we all started giving cranes nicknames, didn't we? Now it's LR11000.
I mean, it's
That's
also a
the-
fancy nickname, right?
I'll tell you a funny story. Buckner, who leased out the crane recently, the big yellow crane. Remind me what the name of that one was, Adrian?
Bucky?
Bucky, that's it. Yeah. They actually emailed us saying, "Oh, thanks for your coverage, and we're watching your videos, and we're looking at Mary's photograph. To what you want Mary's photographs for their brochure? Unbelievably, it's like that's how they got in touch with us." And they said, "Oh, we're using that nickname." So it's like the actual company is leasing. They're in North Carolina, and they leased the crane to SpaceX, and they said, "Oh, we're following your videos and things." That was surreal. A crane company emailing me about that. Oh, it was a funny story. I thought I'd share with the group. Stefan Ballast, I suppose manned Starship, you can't say crew these days. Suppose manned Starship comes in for catching and towers have hydraulic failure again. What would be the options?
Well, it always depends what exactly fails because we saw them moving the chopsticks again. So it seems like they're still like this wasn't a situation where the complete system was completely damaged. They could never move it again. So I would also imagine in the case for example, when a Starship comes down in for catching, and yeah, you would have to look at the options. How much can you still move? What can you access from that area? So I would imagine it being a very fluid situation, and I don't think you can really plan for such a case, because there might be very, very different ways to how this plans out, how it would play out. I mean, the goal would be that never a hydraulic failure would occur once you got a Starship with humans on board. But that's there's another question tied into this, which is also interesting to talk about, because if their goal over the long term is to catch starships as well as boosters, there's a reality where humans on a starship will be caught with a tower. So you're kind of in a very interesting way how humans will land there, and that's also another discussion when and how that will happen.
Thanks again to Alex, because I don't miss the crane nicknames, as you can probably tell. But yeah, the big one, which is in Nick's tweet, was Frankencrane. It was called Frankencrane by the SpaceX because it was built from several different crane booms. It's like literally a Frankencrane, and that's where the name came from. So that's a good reminder again, Alex. Thank you for backing us up there. Blake K asks, did they fix the hydraulic leak from this morning from the lift? I don't think they have, because that's why they're using the crane. And if they'd fixed it, they'd be back to the chopsticks. I think, while we don't think it'll take long to fix, they're obviously in a cadence now where they want to get things on they want to get Boost 7 onto the orbital launch mount, and that means employ the crane. And that's why the crane's there. So yeah, we're doing a lot of crane talk here, but that's why they do it. Silly Cillian asks, lots of talk about testing Super Heavy and chopstick catch tests. Would it be feasible for Elon to modify a Falcon 9 to have catch points and have that be in a chopstick's first catch? That's fascinating, as much as it won't happen. But that's amazing, because that would be literally like using a Falcon 9 booster returning, which they know they got the accuracy for, because the accuracy of their returns are bullseyes these days. But it's not got the diameter of a booster, so it'd be even harder catch for chopsticks, wouldn't it? I don't think the chopsticks can close that much, can they?
I think A, that would be a problem, and B, it would be very hard to compare it, because it's a different rocket, a different like throttle profile, a different way to land. So I'm not sure if that would be comparable enough to get them the necessary amounts of knowledge and data here that would be justified. Also remember, Falcon 9s are expensive. So yeah, you would risk potential Falcon 9s you need for Starlings, for customer payloads, whatsoever, that they are needing right now, because they're flying a lot. So yeah, I think it's a funny idea. I don't think it's in the end it would be practical.
Hi, Predators and Tubbs, you're having a real super chat stream here. Thank you again for your support, but you know, by ways you can do at NASASpaceflight, don't go spend all your money. Just we'll read out as many questions as we possibly can. Any thought on the covers on the side of the booster? Were supposed to be also the aero surfaces, but it seems they have a dedicated strakes now. Is that a change? Why not just use the covers?
Wait, I need to read this.
Yeah,
question
I need to
again.
reread that myself as well. It's like, are we talking about previous iterations of boosters where, well, I think if anything they've improved it, because now the CRPVs aren't just latched onto the side and flying with it on the outside. So yeah, the aero covers.
Yeah, I think the question is maybe why there's more covers besides the chimes.
Oh right,
because you can see the chimes, and you also have the hydraulic, for example, that are covered, the HPU that is covered below a different kind of system. And I think the answer to that is just that probably the space of the chimes was not enough to cover everything. I think if they would have been able to get everything below the chimes, they would prefer that. But I think that's just not the case for now. So that's why there's more outside surfaces.
Meanwhile, are we thinking we're down? Because I've not seen it move down. Doing some A/B testing here. I think they're definitely lined up inside the mount, but it's a question of it's still going down a little bit. So there's still got a bit to go yet. But But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 workers up there right now, and there's probably some on the other side as well. All making sure this booster down. I wonder if Elon's up there as well. He might be, you know. It's the kind of thing he'd love to be involved with. Andrew Castilla.
It seems hot because they're sharing a lot of water right now.
Hey, well, we know it's hot. Poor Mary and Nick are always out there, especially Mary, in this heat all day. And it's not just the heat, it's the wind that's blowing this dust all over the place. It sounds like it's not exactly a holiday resort to be covering this. It really isn't. It might be fun for the odd day or two, but I think I might be melting after about 2 days.
Yeah, let's be real. We are both not from countries that are used to
no, we're not.
hard heat wave.
No, that 105 degrees the other week was ridiculous, and I wouldn't want to do that all week. I guarantee that straight away.
Yeah, I agree.
Andrew Castilla, I'll get to your question. Would the water deluge system prevent gas buildups under the booster during testing and launch?
I don't think it would prevent it. You would have, because it's not like you're flooding everything there. You would probably remove some of the gas and like get the gas into move. Because what you for sure would do is if you bring in water there, you instantly create movement, so that the gases would also move. But I don't think the deluge system would be enough to completely prevent the bubble forming there. Especially, it always depends where the deluge system would be compared to where potential gas bubble would be. If the deluge system is a bit more low, then you still have the potential that a gas bubble forms above that, close to the engine section. So, yes, it would probably help a bit, but I don't think it would prevent it.
Now, Adrian, I'm gonna let you read this next super chat because it includes some German, and I don't want to butcher your language. So I'm gonna just put it into the queue there. It's now live. It's a movie question, I must admit, but it includes some German in it. So I want you to read it out, because if I read out in German, it's gonna sound horrendous.
So, Adrian, did you ever watch The Right Stuff? In German, Der Stoff aus dem Helden sind. Aus dem die Helden sind, sorry. Should be a mandatory movie watch. I don't even know that movie.
No, you can't say that. You don't even know the movie.
Sorry, I don't.
The Right Stuff.
It's not even that I never watched it. I can't even recall that it's a movie. Like,
oh my word, Adrian. When we do movie nights with you, it's not just The Fifth Element we've got to show you. We've got probably the entire Hollywood movie collection to show you.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like we are booked about movie nights for the next like 10 years until I have filled every potential. Yeah, it's quite astonishing how many movies apparently people should have watched that I haven't.
Remy Turk asks, who would be responsible for the human rating of the chopsticks? The FAA or FDA? The human rating of the chopsticks? Do you human rate GSE? I'm thinking no. I mean, I suppose you're bringing back Starship for a catch with crew on board. That would be a different situation, wouldn't it? I think that's the only reason why you'd have to bring crew right into it. Is the catch of the Starship with a crew on board, which is a long way off. But apart from that, it wouldn't require a human rating. Adrian, what do you think about that question? Because I'm thinking the only scenario you need to start human rating ground support equipment is when you start including crew on the catch. In the case of Mechazilla.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this as well. Like, of course, you would probably need to kind of rate the whole process of also like the equipment you would use to remove people. But I'm not sure if that really is who's responsible there. I've really like that. That's a deep, more regulatory question that I'm not sure about. Which instance would rate crew human rate that? I wouldn't believe it's the FAA though, because that's like they're doing like I don't think that's their job, because it's more the part once the rocket is on the around, right, and then how to get from on the ground to crew safe. So I'm not sure if that is an FAA area.
Yeah, I hope you didn't hear me laugh on mic then, because I've just been going through the question queue, and most of them are about which movies you haven't seen. I don't think we'll go through that too much. It'd be too brutal. Adrian volunteered a shot to be going on this live stream because we did it at short notice, and I don't want to butcher him with a movie. Did you watch this movie, Adrian? Adrian, did you watch this movie? Chat wants
Just
to know.
assume no. Just assume no. By default,
Yeah.
if it's not Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, just assume that the answer is probably no.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I've got a question for you. Rogue One, best Star Wars movie or not?
Yes.
Thank you.
By far the best one. It's
There we go.
it's amazing.
I agree.
love it.
Yeah, very wonderful. Mr. Vips, by the way, if I butcher your username on the chat, don't take it too badly. It's two things. One, I'm looking at a screen that I can hardly read, and two, I can't pronounce names, so that's my thing. But he asks, would they launch a Falcon 9 with booster stack on the tower at 39A? Would they launch a Falcon 9 while a booster stack is on the tower at 39A? That is a good question. That is a really good question. I've always found it quite intriguing and a little bit weird that they decided to build the Starship tower right next to the 39A crew rated tower. We'll talk about crew rating again, aren't we? But crew rated tower, as in they do launch crews from 39A now. Because if something goes wrong with a returning booster to the Starship tower, it's probably going to do quite a bit of damage to the 39A tower, which is the ASAP, NASA's Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, brought up, in fact, to the point that they believe the plan is they may do another crew tower at SLC-40. I don't know if that's going to come to fruition or not, but it is a bit of a strange thing. I understand 39A is a great launch site, and it has a lot of things going for it, and there's a lot of positives to why they would utilize that large area of space. But yeah, it's certainly a question. I personally find it a little bit weird that they would decide to have such two systems next to each other like that without the confidence. Now that plays into another question from Cooper Foster. I'm going to combine the two questions here. What are the chances that SpaceX will conduct the orbital flight test from the Cape? I think 0 because of that. Because there is so much. Well, I mean, the point is they're not looking to catch the boost on the first attempt, so that's one thing. That plan might change. But the risk to 39A, the Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9 crew rated tower, is quite high. So you gotta be careful there. I think they'll probably expend the first launches from 39A to the point they're not risking bringing back a booster or a Starship, but you still have the risk of an anomaly on the pad during fueling or during launch itself. So again, the risk is there, but I think that's where Starbase comes into its own. Starbase, as Elon has said, is always going to be a developmental site. That's where they want to do their testing, their main test launches from. And then once they have some confidence, they'll take the launches to Florida. And that's where HLS will launch from. And that's where a lot of their primary missions will launch from. And then they've got LC-49 in the not too distant future, which probably have 2 towers. And that's where you've got your Cadence coming. You've got the oil rigs, Phobos and Deimos. There's more Cadence. There's potential in more sites as well, especially on the East Coast. So I think 39A will be protected in some way, that a lot of the bulk launches will be at other sites, but 39A will be their primary site for the big flagship missions, such as HLS. So yeah, you can balance the risk. I always pause when I'm talking about things like this because it doesn't take us and people in chat to think, oh, that's a bit iffy. SpaceX would have worked this out endlessly. They'd have gone through the numbers, gone through the risks, and worked it out, and they know what they're doing. So that's what they decided, and you can go with it.
Yeah,
Sorry, Adrian, go on.
I agree with, just to answer the first part of the question, like, from my perspective, I think they could launch a Falcon 9 with a Starship on the pad, because I feel like it would defeat the purpose of them building all of that infrastructure there and maybe test. We've seen Starships on a test on a pad for a longer time, so I think there could be a reality where that also is the case there. And I think they wouldn't want to always transport a Starship back if there's some sort of technical problems, just because they now need to launch the next Falcon 9. And I mean, as long as the Starship is not fueled, which it wouldn't be in that case, it's just a can that is just sitting there. So I would think they can launch Falcon 9 while Starship is just sitting on its pad.
Yeah, it's a good point bringing up the actual point of the question, because I got immediately sidetracked by the strangeness of having a massive Starship tower right next to 39A's Falcon 9 Falcon Heavy tower. The other funny thing apart from that question is, will Starship eventually replace Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9? Do you think, Adrian? I think there's always going to be a market for it in the next few years at least. But say Starship is launching massive payloads, even cheaper than Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Do you think there is a point in time that SpaceX will phase out those two vehicles?
I think there will be a point in time where that will happen. However, I feel like, just checking on next spaceflight, with the manifest that Falcon Heavy is right now building, that's not going to be a task that is in the near future. Because Falcon Heavy is building a very expensive manifest, which with a lot of high level, high interest payloads, especially things like the Roman Space Telescope or Europa Clipper or the Gateway PP. That is all, like, these are all missions that Falcon Heavy is getting and will probably continue to get, which are expensive, and they don't really, if you already paid like 5-6 billion or 2 billion or 1.5 billion for your payload, it doesn't really matter if your launch costs 120 or, I don't know, 50, because it's not that much of a factor in the overall term cost. You just want to make sure your payload reaches the designated target in the end. So I think Falcon Heavy especially, and also Falcon 9 with the ISS mission, has a longer period of life. But in the end, yes, I think it will be phased out for Starship once that is really up and running. But I think they will fly into the late 2020s, maybe even early 2030s.
Wow. Yeah, because I personally think that they want a stock of boosters now. Now they can return them. They can have a stock of boosters. They know that they can reuse to the point that to get to a certain lifespan. But providing they pass the inspections, they keep using them, and they're achieving double-digit figures now with these boosters. They could have a family of boosters and still use them until they expend them all, and there'll always be customers for that kind of cadence. But I think, personally, yeah, 2030s. I think that I can probably see even sooner than that. Where if Starship is successful, it just changes the game, because these vehicles can take so much. You could probably put several payloads in one go at one Starship, and probably at a cheaper price than the entire dedicated launch of a Falcon 9. So it's incredible what this could achieve, but we're a long way off. They're still going to launch this thing Orbital yet, and I think I think we know for a fact their primary payloads start with their own basic Starlink V2s, which, I mean, if Starship provides some early success with the V2s, that's just an incredible bonus for them, because that helps them with their overall deployment schedule. So that's all exciting things, but a long way to go before that happens, because they'll have some bumps in the road. There's no question about it. They'll have bumps in the road on the way. And speaking of bumps in the road, Plutonium, little segue there. Plutonium asks, will Boost 7 pass Spin Prime without blowing up? I think it will. I think they've learnt a lesson now from that previous test, and I think we've got every confidence now that they'll get the data they require with a static fire test, and a Spin Prime test. But the question there for Adrian is, do you think they'll do Spin Prime, pre-burner, static fire 3 different days, or maybe go for the all 3 in one go?
I think previous tests showed that often the case was that that the Spin Prime test is kind of the one that is on the single day, and we saw them doing pre-burner and static fires on the same day before. That would not be a total novelty. So I could see a scenario where they redo the Spin Prime, which gave them trouble last time, then end the day with a good inspection, make sure everything worked, and then do like a pre-burner into a static fire test day. So I think they could do it in 2. However, and that's the other side to this, there also was a time, and we are kind of past that time, but you never know when it's going back, when they had a lot of scrubs in these tests, especially in static fires. So there could also be a situation where we see them recycling over and over again, trying to get these vehicle into the right window for a static fire, and just never get to that point. So we should also be prepared to that, especially with increasing engine amount and complexity, that there might be more scraps on the road as well. And even Elon hinted, in terms of the orbital flight, that there might be a lot of countdowns. So maybe we will already see that with booster static fires. So we'll see.
Speaking of boosters, I think we're down. I think we are down now.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done some A/B testing and it's not moved since, so I think they are confidently down. I think that's gone very successfully with the crane as a backup process to the chopsticks, which had a hydraulic leak. I'm sure the chopsticks are back in action anytime soon, but yeah, I think that concludes our live stream for this event. We got to see the outer ring of 20 Raptor 2s on their own without center engines. Where are my center engines? Game of Thrones reference there. Something Adrian's probably not seen yet, but I won't go.
I have seen Game of Thrones.
Oh, well done. Good, because that's good. That's good. I like Game of Thrones. Alexandra with some support. I just want to quickly reference that because that's very much appreciated, as is everybody's support. Everybody who even just likes the stream. All very much appreciated. And by the way, the fun does not stop. We go to Starbase Live, where we're 24/7. And I see about 4 questions I want to answer, but obviously with the hour, we'll move on to Starbase Live. I'm going to copy and paste those questions from this live stream into Starbase Live and answer them there in chat, so no one misses out. But I think at that point, I think this concludes our live stream. Thanks all for joining us. Thank you to Adrian. Adrian, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for watching.
Yep, and on to Starbase Live, where the fun continues 24/7. Thank you all.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, roll with Planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight outside SCE off. Say again, SCE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.